My name is Lexa Martinez de la Cueva, and I noticed that when I was younger, I started skin picking in elementary school. That was like the first sign of mental illness for me. I was growing up in kind of some trauma environment. I have experienced trauma growing up. And so by the time I was in my teens, I started having anxiety, depression, and they put me on Zoloft, and that made me suicidal because you're not supposed to give it to people under the age of 25 anymore because it can do that. And then by the time I got to college, everything kept getting worse and the anxiety increased, the depression increased. I was able to do fine in school and I started to get a little paranoid. But at the end of earning my master's degree, I had just moved out. I'd gotten a new full time job. I was in a studio for the first time ever. And over the several months that I kept that job, before I quit suddenly one day. I was really having bad delusions and paranoia about everyone who came into the office, the people I worked with, and it was absolutely terrifying. So I quit one day and I was in the studio all by myself for several months, and the symptoms would get worse. Now I was having hallucinations and mania looking back, but at the time, everything was real to me. And it was absolutely terrifying as well and a traumatic experience. And it was finally by chance, March 2015, because I was screaming at all night, which I remember very well, all the reasons, I did everything I did, but I was hospitalized and they gave me the diagnosis of schizophrenia. And unfortunately, I wouldn't gain insight at all at the hospital. That's a traumatic experience in itself. And so for the next few years, I would be hospitalized more times without any break from the psychosis, no break from the delusions. And I was, wandering the streets. I would spend some time homeless. I had more suicidal ideation. I was committing suicide for the first time in my life, unlike before. It was just very extreme. And I remember my experiences very well, both realities, especially the psychosis and the seventh hospital visit in October 2017. I finally gained insight. And from then on, when they had put me on olanzapine, I've been on it ever since. But I will say on olanzapine, I was also suicidal some more and depressed about, what had happened. And I didn't feel well on the medicine. It didn't really give me the moods, but it did keep me out of the hospital. And I didn't necessarily have new psychosis or delusions, but I just never felt well. And I had actually wished for a while that I had been successful in my suicide attempts and psychosis because now this reality of coming back to was so much worse, to have experienced all that and it all taken away. So, did all this research all the time in my spare time, often, and looked up cures, new medicines coming. And in 2019, I discovered an article on Psychology Today explaining keto, that it worked for two people in case reports with similar diagnoses. And I thought, well, why isn't anyone else talking about this? I'm sure it worked for them. I totally believed it, but I didn't want to try it. I never dieted before. And so I decided to just brush it off, and believe they had something rare that it worked for them. That was why it worked for them. But then fast forward to summer 2023, I'm on YouTube and Metabolic Mind shows up in my feed and it's about keto helping people with similar diagnosis and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's working for other people." And so I gave it a couple weeks, worked with a local dietitian who didn't really know much about it and just jumped right in and had horrible headaches. And well, personally, I thought, "Okay, maybe I'm getting a kidney stone." And I started thinking, "No, the risks are not worth it. I think I should stop." And then we fast forward to November 2023, after I had given up on keto for those just after 2 weeks. But I'm at the grocery store. I develop a crush on this guy, and I go home and immediately start thinking, oh, wait, I really want to date and have a boyfriend, but I can't function. I'm not functioning in any aspect of my life. This is terrible. I just can't think straight. It's this medicine, my illness. I'm not sure, but I must do something about it. So, starting in December of 2023, I do keto again. And, you can keep in mind I was suicidal before I started keto, and the first month, it kind of got a little worse and I felt more depressed and anxious. So I noticed that I had been watching Lauren Kennedy West on YouTube, and she was working with Nicole Laurent. So after that first month of keto, I enlisted Nicole Laurent to help me with keto, see, what's going on because I was getting good ketones and my macros were great, and she agreed. So we talked about it, and she has this therapy background, and it was definitely some external circumstances going on that I needed to work on and change to, feel good as well. Not It wasn't that I was doing anything with the diet wrong. And so, we added supplements, and that would, help a little bit, but over time it would vanish the suicidal thoughts, and it was fantastic. It just had to, I think, work because it doesn't always work right away. The first time that I noticed benefits on keto was mental health benefits, by the way, was 2 months in, and all of a sudden I didn't even know this was either a symptom or something wrong with me, but for the first time in like a decade, reality seemed real. And it wasn't a virtual, stimulation that I could prove anymore or feel for sure. I'm just 100% certain it's virtual. Now I'm like, oh, it's real. I got to start treating it like it's real. And that was just a huge wake up call. So soon after that, I started decreasing my medicine, olanzapine, and I would say, what I read or research said to give it 4 to 6 months. But for the mental health benefits that I was looking for, didn't start till about 7 or 8 months, a little bit longer. And I was going to give the diet 2 or 3 years, to be honest. Maybe not go off my medicine, but in the end, actually lowering it helps me feel benefits as well. And so, 7 or 8 months, I'm finally reduced anxiety, no longer depressed, suicidal, increased motivation, becoming more of a go getter. But in between, I've got, withdrawal symptoms at times. There's bouts of that while I was lowering the medicine. And then 10 months in, I was so happy. I was like, this is going to be my main treatment. I had gone through unpredictable, major stressors that I could not handle at all before. I mean, I couldn't even handle sitting in an office chair for 8 hours with like a low stress drop, right? But now I'm handling a full-time job, major car stressors, financial stressors, some serious health things going on, had to get checked out, just lots of things going on. And so I handled them fine. Like they weren't a breeze because there's still life stressors, but it was so different for me. I wasn't flipping out. I wasn't breaking down, wasn't having any psychosis, no delusions, no mania. Everything was just night and day, and so I've been continuing on this journey ever since. I'm confident in the keto diet and metabolic therapies on top of that. They have the combination is so synergistic, I believe is the word I want. And so I'm really happy with that, and some bonus benefits that were actually seen a little bit sooner than the 2 month mark when I for the mental health benefits. Like I had a chronic extensor tendonitis toe pain, and I was told I had to do 30 minutes of exercise for them, or for the toe to feel better every day, but I wasn't motivated to do that when I started keto. And in 2 weeks, the pain just completely disappeared. And it only shows up if my ketones are in the ones or twos for a few days, but when they're higher consistently, the pain's completely gone. And then the other bonus, my periods regularized for the first time. Even on olanzapine, they were all over the place. And the only thing I still deal with is a little PMS that I have to troubleshoot. But overall, it was keto journey has been really thrilling, and I always wanted to be here and hopefully be one of the people, a success story, or to share and help other people be motivated or consider what is possible. So when I was able to get back to work this last year for a couple of temporary jobs, usually I quit them before the contract is up, but I was able to keep them until the contract ended. And that in itself was a win, but also I was able to tolerate the jobs, the stress levels, different variances every day that were unexpected. The other jobs, I would just sit with akathisia, is what I learned. That I was having. I didn't even know that, but Nicole Laurent pointed it out when I told her my symptoms. So I would sit at jobs and have this horrible inner restlessness and tension that's being eliminated the lower I go. And as well as being on the keto diet with metabolic therapies. So now I'm fully confident I can hold down permanent job, move out, have reclaim my independence and freedom, just work through all these capacities have increased. And that's just one of the benefits. And I could list them, increased motivation. I'm more of a go getter. I have increased confidence, increased energy, mental clarity. I am able to think positively without trying. When I was on olanzapine, I would go to therapists. We would do all these exercises. They would give me homework. I would try to rewire my brain, that neuroplasticity process. But no matter what, I just couldn't think positive. And like several months on keto, it just started coming naturally to me. So even in the job with all the stressors, I can shut down easily. The negative thoughts that they creep in. It's a totally different experience now. For challenges that I need to have had to overcome while I'm doing keto and metabolic therapies, I currently am experiencing some trauma, and it's related to my past traumas. It's in a situation that I'll have to get myself out when I have my reclaimed independence. So that is something that I've been able to think clearer with the mental clarity of this diet and everything and the therapies, and see things that I needed to see. But with my increased capacity, I'm talking to therapists. I see online or I go to online support communities. I'm handling it when I couldn't handle it before or see it when someone pointed out to me years ago. Another setback I could bring up is that last year, this first year on keto, I saw several specialists and I was trying to figure out this mystery quirk that I had going on. And I had over a dozen tests over the span of the years. Few were functional, most were conventional, and they all would come back normal. And so, in the end, most of the experts agree it's the medication. So that was just a setback to to feeling always my best because I was like, is there something wrong with the diet for me? But it wasn't related to the diet. It's just a side effect of the medication. And I've been told I have to get completely off to eventually, have that quirk go away. So that's not been fun. And then it's always a little bit of a backwards moment when I'm going through withdrawal. No matter how slow I can go, the tappers I've done, and no matter how good I'm feeling before them and all excited to lower the dose, but what happens is each time I do lower the dose, when I am stable, I'm feeling even better than the last time I lowered it. So, it really is for me a medication factor that the lower I go, the more I'm experiencing the benefits of the medical keto and metabolic therapies. So, those are just a few setbacks. If someone came to me and asked me, why should I even consider keto instead of doing or taking my medication every day, I would tell them that for me, keto is a get out of jail free card. And by that, I mean I get to reclaim my independence. I don't have to rely also on this medication every day. I'm very close to getting off, and my medication has caused me some horrific side effects, and some of them have become more known the lower I've gone on the medication. And so I just didn't feel like myself or like anybody on this medication. It wasn't even taking care of all of my symptoms. It wasn't really helping me. I wasn't thriving. I wasn't living. It made me feel, especially reflecting back on those times, when that's all I did and not metabolic therapies and keto, but I was like in a state of the art advanced coma where I could walk, I could drive, I could eat and, look like I'm living, but I wasn't. I wasn't functioning. I couldn't hold down any jobs. I couldn't handle any stress. I actually didn't have good moods. I was still feeling blue on it, suicidal at times. It just wasn't working. Whereas now I feel healthier anyway. I am healthier than I've ever been. There's no reason I wouldn't want to continue on this diet as long as I can do it. It gives me freedom. I'm in control. I get to get the sleep I need. I get to exercise and feel good. I couldn't exercise on olanzapine and feel good. It just wasn't possible. I didn't. I tried it and I would just say, I must have a gene where I'm averse to exercise, but that wasn't true. So I enjoy exercise. It makes me feel good. keto diet is once you get into it, it's worth it. It's fun. You get to play with it. You get to do variations of keto that work for you, your preferences, and find out more about yourself and have a lifelong health journey that's totally worth it. So I just think it makes the most sense for me, at least, to go down this path and keep going on. And it would be the same for many people.